So what do firms look like for trainee mortgage advisors? What is it like working inside of one of those? That's what we're going to unpack today. Honestly, I've been a mortgage broker myself. I've been a trainee in that time, and I've also worked with lots of brokers and seen different types of environments within that. I'm going to share you my opinion on it. Obviously, there could be differing opinions all over the place, and this is quite a hard one to pick because every firm is going to be different. If you have a question, by the way, you'd like me to try and answer anyway, I can't promise I can do it, but if I can, then I will try. Chuck that into the comments, and I'll try and do it. If it's really deep, I might even have to do a video on it. If not, I'll answer it in the comment itself. So that's there. Now, let's go through this. What I'm going to be talking about is the good type of what's really good, what's bad, what bad would look like, what good looks like, and also what you can do to try and get the best out of it. That's what I've got on my notes. It's literally 3 bullet points today, and then let's riff off the top of those. So first thing to talk about is this idea of what does a good mortgage firm for trainees look like? Well, first things first is a good onboarding program. They should have a solid onboarding program from the very beginning. If they don't, that is an alarm bell for me. That is a warning sign. Why don't they have a good onboarding program? That normally would mean that they are usually hiring more senior brokers, and they're not used to having people who aren't senior brokers. And that's a big kind of like big warning sign for that. So remember that. Always remember that. The other thing then would be, so that's onboarding, then training. So a training program of someone who's truly supervising them and actually guiding them through step by step to learn their customer journey and to learn their actual processes. If they don't have a customer journey and don't have processes, that's a big issue. I think that's to me, these are like big red flags. That would be, to be fair, I'm going through the good and the bad as we go through it, but this is what good would be. So good would be that. Good would be this idea of having a good onboarding program and a training program. And they should have that. And it's alarming how many don't, by the way, alarming how many don't, especially if you're going into like independence. If you're going into something large, I spoke about this in the previous video, I'll link that back at the end of this, but it's like this idea of like the large firms that are going to hire most trainees. So your Connells, your Countrywides, your LNCs, things like that. They are going to have very elaborate onboarding programs and very specific and structured training programs. They have all of those things. But independent firms don't, not always. And if the good one, they will. Now, I have this a lot. I've spoken to somebody recently, actually, who's just recently come into the industry. He's flying, but there's no real training or onboarding. He's just chucked straight in and good luck. And he's been one of those ones who's been able to swim, not sink. But that's not a good sign of a good trainee firm. He'll survive that. And it's what I call the death beach, which is like if you think about turtles when they hatch, we've all seen it on National Geographic and stuff. Turtles hatch and they have to get to the ocean, but they have to crawl across the beach, don't they? All the baby turtles have to kind of drag themselves across the beach, of which everything is trying to kill them. So everything, there's the seagulls, the crabs, everything is attacking them. And only like a small percentage, I don't know the percentage, but a small percentage of turtles actually make it to the ocean. Once they're in the ocean, they're swimming. But many of them don't make it. That's mortgage industries. And most of the time, people who hatching turtles is the CMAP. They pass their CMAP and then they're waddling down the beach and crabs and predator birds come and get them, so to speak. And that's what can happen here. And so independent firms, a lot of the time, won't have those training programs in place, and then you get the ones who make it through to the other end. If you want to try and maximize your chance of being successful with it, you want to try and find the firms that do have these structured onboarding training programs, structured CAS stuff. I mean, one of the ones that I remember one of my friends working with, he didn't get CAS for like 3 years yet because he was part of a DA firm. And this guy kept kicking the can down the road and not giving him CAS. And yet he was a fully fledged advisor at that point. He was really good. He's a good family friend of mine. He was brilliant. And the guy kept kicking it down the can. Bad trainee firm. Probably could have been a good firm if you were going to do it, if you were going to be already advising, but trainee firm, awful. So that's these signs you got to look at. That's one of them. The next thing with trainee firms is understanding, training you how to, I would look for with is lead generation. So if they are an independent firm, are they helping you with lead generation? That's the big thing here. I think that if they're not helping you with lead generation, now, if you think about with an employed firm, they're providing you with leads. So Connells, Countrywide, LNC, they're going to provide you with leads. If they're employed, they should be providing you with leads. If you are employed, that is my personal opinion. They should be. If they're not providing you with leads because you're self-employed, that's fine. That's understandable. But what are they doing to help you learn how to get leads? Because if you're coming in here and you see this often, firms will be like, hey, look, Like they'll be literally like, oh look, here's a like message your friends and family. All of that stuff doesn't really work. And then what happens, by the way, is people turn to the outside external courses and honestly, most of these courses are not great out there. There's a reason I do a lot of free content, is to try and combat a lot of these kind of courses and memberships, because they're not great. And they're designed to take your money with giving you basic information, is the honest answer. So usually the firms can train you how to do that. And if they can't, then there's probably not a great sign, in my opinion. So that's another one there. Remember, with a trainee, the firm you join as a trainee is going to be very different to the firm that you'd want to be if you're an established broker. Now, you might stay at the same firm as a trainee, but you might not. And a lot of these firms specialize in being really good trainee firms. Then they go off and then they let people leave. It's part of the game. That's kind of what Connells is. They don't admit it, but that's what it is. My dad was head of training there for many years, and he used to talk about this all the time. He'd say, look, we know that our model is 2 years. Most of the people are going to be gone, and we got a new set. So they're constantly recruiting. For that reason, they're a trainee factory. And some will stay, some will go, and then some of those ones who go will come back. That's kind of the business model of them. So it's really important to understand that there are ones out there. So that's that one. Structured towards training, structured towards CAS, structured towards lead generation. If they don't have those in place, that's a bad thing. If they do have them, that's a good sign. Doesn't mean you're going to make it to the sea and swim like a little turtle, but it does increase the chances of it. So what can you do then yourself to try and, because some of you are going to be in bad firms. It's just kind of luck of the draw. Nothing you can do about that. What can you do? Well, there's a number of things you can do. You can educate yourself, first of all. So consuming content like I'm doing now, checking out my podcast, which is my weekly show. It's a different YouTube channel. If you search at Ash Borland or on YouTube, the link is in the description. But there's also a podcast. It's the same podcast, which is the Mortgage Business Mastery podcast. Where every week, I'm talking about stuff that you could use and implement into your business. This type of YouTube channel, again, learning that. If you need to pay for a course, then fine. I really wouldn't, but fine. But you want to be upskilling yourself and learning how to do this stuff. Realizing that most of the time a firm is not going to train you. Not to be good. They'll train you to be adequate at best. Even the good firms are going to train you to be adequate. And the bad ones will not give you any training. Your job is to try and take control of that and start to learn it. And what are the things you need to learn? You need to learn how to speak to people, so communication. You need to learn how to generate leads, so content creation, branding. You need to learn how to effectively do time management, task management. These are all things that aren't shown because we're studying with CMAP. You don't need to learn how to place cases because that's natural. Anyone around you will be able to speak to that. They'll be able to do that. It's fine. You need to learn all of the supporting skills around that. And that's the stuff a lot of these places don't teach. It's the stuff I teach. I'm not trying to sell you that. I don't work with people until they're fully qualified and then making about 60 to 100 grand a year. That's when I come in and we can blow that up and take you to the moon. Or not to the moon, but I take people from like 60 to 100 to like 150, 180, 250, 300. That's the kind of goal. That's why I make so much free content, because I want you eventually to be someone who can work with me in the long-term future once you're making money. But realistically, all of those skills is what will get you there. You won't get there by just learning criteria and being a good mortgage broker. You have to be a good salesperson, business person, operator. And those are the skills. So reading books. I have a book club you can join, which is my broker book club. Again, link is in the description for that. You can join that. It's completely free. It's one book a month. Read that book, implement the stuff in there. I'll give you tasks to implement on it and everything. I've got free podcasts, anything like that. But you don't have to do mine. You do whatever you want. But that's the type of stuff. Upskill yourself and you will do well. If you don't, you leave it to chance, you're just going to be one of those people, and I get you in my DMs, and I love you all, but please understand I'm not the best person to ask for sympathy with, is that they're like, oh, well, it doesn't really work for me. I'm like, all right, get me the world's smallest violin. It's not that way. It's Darwinian out here. You have to learn. It's survival of the fittest, and I want you to all. That's why I make this content, to help you get better. Absolutely. I'm a caring guy, but I understand that the industry isn't going to be like that for you. So you've got to learn and got to do it yourself. Now, I broke down, I alluded to it halfway through the video, I broke down on the previous video I made, the firms who are kind of the most trainee orientated, the employed firms that are the most trainee orientated, what they do, the pros and cons of those. I spoke about them today, but I broke about it in more detail. So if you want to check that out, I'll put it up on screen somewhere around here. Check that out. Like I said, if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. And I'll see you in the